Invincible is the heartwarming tale of a kid growing into adulthood, figuring out his own potential as the uncomfortable truth that his father, the man he always idolized, is actually a violent, murderous, lying alien who leagues of other violent, murderous aliens want to murder violently. We are joined today by Invincible creator Robert Kirkman and co-showrunner Simon Racioppa. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today.
Right? Woohoo! Ready to be here.
Yay! Insert applause here. We're alone in a room. So I'm so happy you're both here.
They can't pipe in applause after this?
They might.
That's going to be super awkward.
I'll sit in and make sure they do it.
Too much.
But seriously, though, Invincible is truly one of my favorite shows. I do watch it for free when I'm not on the clock, and it has one of the best casts out there today. And we do have an exclusive clip to share from season 2, part 2. But right before we get into that, I want to pick up from where we left off in part 1. While Nolan is a major subject and source of heartache for Debbie and Mark and the world, we really didn't see him until the very end of part 1. And when we did, Omni-Man came off as much more sympathetic than when a similar reappearance happened in the original comic version. Can you speak to that change? Do you view this as a course correction, or what was the choice in this revision?
A softening of Omni-Man, if you will. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that we maybe over anticipated the audience's acceptance of him, of the softer side of Nolan, and so we went a little bit harder on explaining his motivations and showing a little bit more of what was going on with him inside. I mean, the comic doesn't have that brilliant scene where you see him leave the Earth and what he's going through and everything, and I think that really did a lot of heavy lifting as far as showing kind of another side of what was going on there and kind of who he is. So I can see that as being a little bit softer than what we did in the comics.
Also, I think we show a lot more of him in the end of season 1 when he reveals his true self. He's worse, I think, maybe not worse in the show than in the books, but we show more of it. So he's sort of he's in a deeper hole we have to show him in, to get him out of there, so the audience doesn't hate him going forwards forever.
There's a big arc that he's going to be going through. There's a lot of talk of Amazon and their evil Superman with Homelander and Omni-Man and stuff. And I think that there's a big difference in what we're trying to do with Omni-Man and who he is as a character. It's reductive to just refer to him as an evil Superman. He is not an evil character.
Well, we're going to be talking more about that later. But first, what I want to do is I did promise there would be a clip.
Oh boy.
Let's see that clip.
Let's do it.
Mark. Nolan. Where's Nolan?
The Viltrumites took him. I'm sorry. The city, these people, it's all our fault.
Mark, you saved my life. And your brother's.
If my dad and I hadn't been here, none of this would have happened.
If your father hadn't been here, I wouldn't have a son. And if you hadn't been here, we both would have died. Thraxan lives are short compared to yours. Our culture doesn't assign blame. We only look forward. We will rebuild, Mark. Count on that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So many claps.
Yes. Well, we see the natural continuation of what's happened once the Viltrumites came by for a little visit.
Not ideal for any civilization when they visit.
Not anyone's favorite, but we do know that season 2 is very much about Mark fearing that he's just like his father and becoming him and him going through that. But in some ways, Nolan is softening a bit, as we discussed. He's a little bit more like Mark. Do you think he's a different person now than who we all expect him to be?
I think that there's something that he's really going through here, which is he spent a lot of time on Earth and he learned their ways and had this relationship with Debbie and really was present for the raising of Mark, which, as we get deeper into the series, we'll reveal what life is like on the Viltrum planet, and you'll see how different it is. And it's these differences between Earth and Viltrum that are kind of weighing on him. He is thousands of years old, and, he has the Viltrum way of life ingrained in him, but this tiny experience with Earth life, has affected him in a very tangible way, and, is changing him, not to reveal too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think he's struggling with that too.
Yeah.
He's not sure who he is right now. He's going through changes that he's never experienced before, emotionally, and that's a challenging thing for anyone.
Is there a path kind of to redemption for him at this point? Is there a way back, let's say, since he's not really quite a true Viltrumite anymore?
I mean, that's a good question. I think that's a question to ask the audience. Yeah. I think everyone has a different view on that. Is like, can you come back from what he's done, from the deaths he's caused, all the people he murdered in Chicago in the last season, what he did to Debbie, what he did to Mark, what he did to other people's families. Can you come back from that? I think it's something we're going to explore. I think we do explore, but I think the answer of like yes or no, that's everyone's got their own view on that.
It's a very great question or answer.
I'll never forgive him.
No?
Never.
Okay. That's the headline we're going to run with.
Nolan Grayson, you're dead to me.
He's dead to most people on Earth. Touching back on the topic of adaptation, is there anything you'd wanted to change or made a specific point to change from the comics to the animated series?
For the most part, we're trying to stay true to the comics, but we have this opportunity, Simon and I, when we're mapping out these stories and figuring things out, it's, what we mainly do is we try to find bits of the comic that we can expand, that we can deepen, that we can, find more nuance in, pump more emotion into, make the action scenes a little bit more visceral. It's nice to be able to have this 144 issue run where I can sit in the room and go, okay, the audience reacted to this way, and we got a lot of letters about this, and people felt this way about this scene, and they felt this way about that scene, because, in comics, you go to Comic-Con every year, it's constant feedback. We always do a letters column in all of my books, and so we're getting letters from the fans, and so we have, from the comics, essentially like a think tank of people that have weighed in, a focus group, if you will, and so we were able to use that to kind of help us guide the stories, and I like to think of it as like putting a little bit more oomph in the story.
Yeah, it's kind of like, most stories don't get that chance to have another draft even.
Yeah, or most people do that before they put the comic out, but not me. First drafts and then I'm out. I don't do the second draft until we do the adaptation.
An important character we know who's just waiting to reappear is Angstrom Levy, played by Sterling K. Brown. Is the idea of different multiversal versions of Angstrom, or even his son, or the idea of vengeance against versions of Mark and Nolan, just something that's going to keep recurring in the series?
I think that's Angstrom's story, really, is that, he was this altruistic, meaning well guy that wanted to use his abilities to save the world, and through his own actions that got corrupted. And the thing that corrupted it was his knowledge of who Invincible is in the other dimensions. And so the fact that Invincible ends up being not a very good guy in so many different instances, has given him a skewed perspective on who Invincible is. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really interesting. We're in this dimension watching Invincible going, hey, he's a good guy. He's a hero. He's got his own show. This is great. But if you could peer into the multiverse and see all these other versions, you'd be like, wait a minute, this guy's an anomaly. Most Invincibles are terrible. And so in that respect, I love that Angstrom is a villain where there's some nuance to him. He isn't necessarily evil. He may actually be correct in a certain way. So, that's something that's interesting to follow. And, we'll see him again sooner than you think.
Mm-hmm. Good. I was hoping that. But with him comes the idea of traveling multiverses, and there's a lot to work with there, especially considering the Invincible comic crossovers. For instance, Invincible has crossed paths with the Tick, Batman, the Avengers, and Spider-Man. My question is, are we going to get the Spider-Man crossover? Are we going to get to see pictures of Spider-Man?
Would that we could pull the powers of Amazon and Disney and Marvel and everybody together. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? But I wouldn't count on it.
Okay.
And that's not a tease.
I had to ask. And I wouldn't be a responsible journalist if I didn't have that outburst just now.
No, I wholeheartedly support it.
And I do have to ask, because it has popped up recently, that Steven said he would like to be in the Invincible movie, but not as Mark since they're different ages. What is the status of the Invincible movie?
I mean, it's going through the pipeline slowly. The strikes and everything kind of put a pause on things for a while, and we're just now, getting back into that, and it's all very exciting. But it's not something that we're rushing. It's something that we definitely want to get right. Now that the show is out and the animated series is doing well, we're trying to figure out ways to make sure that it stands apart. Like works in tandem with the show to show how cool Invincible is and doesn't detract from it in any way. And so there's a lot of maneuvering that has to go into that, and so it is taking a little bit of time. But I can't wait for everyone to see Stephen Yeun as Cecil Stedman.
Oh, that's where you would cast him?
Sure, great.
Is it that far down the line that he would be as old as Cecil?
It's entirely possible.
Oh no.
Maybe not.
What would a live action version of Invincible accomplish that an animated version, especially a serialized animated version, could not?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to reveal that per se, but I think there's a lot of different things that you can accomplish in live action. There's a lot of different audience that you can reach that you can't reach in animation, unfortunately. And I just think that there's there's just different things. There's a different feel from the story that you'll get in live action that you may not necessarily get in animation. And they're also two completely different things. And so I like the idea of, the Invincible comic is one thing, the Invincible animated series is one thing, and the Invincible live action thing will be a completely different thing.
The musical is going to be a totally different thing on its own too. Yeah.
Simon, don't joke like that. I would really love an Invincible musical.
Do one of the songs.
Oh, you want me to do one of the songs? Trash bag in the air. Here come my powers. I'm so happy. Sorry, is that good? That's one of the numbers. It's one of the opening numbers.
Yeah.
I'd like to play a
Seth Rogen is Adam Eve.
Oh!
It's going to be great.
I didn't consider that. So obviously Gillian is Alan.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're getting the hang of it.
I have other talents. I could cast a movie poorly. I want to play a little game with you two. It's not
Wait,
scary.
we're just playing a game?
No, we're playing another game.
That last part was serious.
Yeah, that part was for real, and we're going to run it as hard news.
Can't wait.
But we all know that Omni-Man is probably the biggest and the most strong force in the known Invinciverse, right? And on that note, there have been a lot of internet debates, articles discussing topics like you mentioned before. Who would win, Omni-Man or Superman, or Omni-Man and Homelander, whatever. But we're not having that discussion.
Oh, we're not? Okay, good. Because that discussion usually ends with people on the internet mad at me because I say that Superman is lame and that Omni-Man would easily beat Superman. So I didn't want to say that again and get people mad at me all over again, even though it's true.
No one can be mad because no one asked you that.
That's right.
It came out of nowhere. Those were your thoughts. But we're going to focus on, instead, real threats and whether or not he is stronger than those threats. And
sadness? Is he
like real things that affect our lives, like fighting a parking ticket, Omni-Man versus the 7-week processing time of a passport when your trip is in 8 weeks. Who wins? Would you rather face Omni-Man or have a midlife crisis? Gentlemen, we want you to weigh in. We have a little game that I like to call Omni-Managing Crisis.
All right. Applause.
I'll pose an Omni-Man versus question, and you can tell me who you think would win.
Okay, great.
All right, first one. Omni-Man versus waiting at the DMV at 3 p.m. on a Friday.
The DMV at 3 o'clock is the worst.
But Omni-Man's thousands of years old. So waiting, like he lives for, so what's waiting for an afternoon to him? Like he could just go to his mind palace and just hang out.
He's got a mind palace now.
That's going to be in season 3.
All of season 3 totally takes place in his mind palace.
I'm going DMV.
Omni-Man versus filing for taxes as a self-employed freelancer.
I think that the people that constructed this game didn't anticipate how much I hate doing all of these things you're mentioning.
I picked things that I hate.
And so I think Omni-Man is going to lose to all of these things.
Omni-Man versus the parental disapproval you have because you didn't go to law school. I wrote that one.
There's still time.
No, there isn't. No, there's not. Don't give my father ideas.
What's your opinion on that one? Who wins there?
I think.
Isn't everyone just sad at the end? Like,
Well, I mean, it's the disapproval. So you have to stop caring about the disapproval so you can work at IGN.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I guess Omni-Man is stronger.
So in your father's opinion, the lawyer thing would have been cooler than working at IGN?
Oh, yeah. It should have been me.
Your dad's wrong.
Courtroom. Oh, thank you.
Lawyering is
No,
boring.
you know what he said to me? He said,
Stressful?
Kimberly, lawyers are the Jedi Knights of the real world. Because he's trying to get me interested in being a lawyer.
All right.
Are they?
Look, I don't want to get too personal here, but I don't like your dad. Did you want to answer that?
No, I'm just saying. I don't think that analogy is apt. I don't think lawyers are the Jedi Knights of the.
No, they're more the Sith.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
But boring.
That's right, Dad. Yeah, Dad. Moving on. Omni-Man versus the meeting that could have been an email.
Oh, God, those are the worst. The meeting wins.
The meeting wins.
Meeting wins. Oh my God, those make me so mad.
We're seeing the limits of Omni-Man's powers here.
They're also seeing how easy it is to make me angry.
How to bother these two guys. Omni-Man versus a parent-teacher conference.
I'm sure he did those, though. We just haven't shown it in the show.
Those are sometimes fun. Sometimes. Because sometimes the teacher's like, yeah, your kid did this. And then I get to be like, so? Fine. What's the problem there?
Yeah.
All right, Omni-Man wins.
Gets mad at me. And then my wife gets mad at me. Omni-Man wins.
Cool. And one last one. Omni-Man versus The Rock and Vin Diesel, and they have it in their contract that they can't lose a fight.
I mean, The Rock and Vin Diesel obviously win. Those contracts are ironclad. Let me tell you what. I don't know if you've been paying attention to those movies.
Oh, yeah?
Those contracts are ironclad. Omni-Man is not winning that fight. Because this one's for your dad.
Don't you say it.
This one's for your dad.
No.
The second Omni-Man starts winning that fight, the lawyers are jumping in with their Jedi, the lightsabers. I almost said Jedi swords like I didn't know what a lightsaber was.
You were worried.
That's ridiculous. Anyway, so then the Jedi lawyers jump in, and then Vin Diesel and The Rock, they win.
I personally disagree, but this game is not intended for me. All right, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciated that at some points, and others were very oddly personal. Well, that's all the time we have, but it was time very well spent. Thank you both, Robert and Simon, for your time. And for those of you who don't have multiversal travel technology, so you can go somewhere that Invincible Season 2 Part 2 is already out, you can catch it on Prime Video on March 14th.